Right now, live at 5:30 from a new crime plan initiative announced today. 2 officers shot and injured last night. To the news, the Givaudan Company will look to move out of Clifton. We're getting answers from the top tonight.
Yeah, we are joined now by Louisville Mayor Craig Greenberg and Police Chief Paul Humphrey.
Thank you both.
Thank you both for being here. Exactly. First of all, let's get right to it. The 2 officers, how are you guys doing today?
Both are in great spirits. Obviously, last night was a point of concern for us, but. You know, that's what these officers do. They're out here doing this every day and every night. They're going out there trying to keep people safe, and I'm very proud of the work that they've done, and I'm glad that it wasn't much worse than it is. But they're in good spirits.
The officer you were telling me who was shot in the hand, it was a pretty serious surgery.
Yeah, he had to have surgery on his hand, repair some of the broken bones in his hand. So he's going to be out for a considerable amount of time, but we hope to get him back soon.
We're going to launch into the crime plan that you also announced today. Did we see this last night, part of your enforcement? You see a suspected stolen vehicle, pull it over. I know the chief, in the wake of the 2020, the police sort of backed off for that a while. Now you seem to be going strong back into it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think we've seen the results of de-policing in a sense. And so we need officers out there doing proactive enforcement work. We need officers out there contacting people. When they see something that's suspicious that doesn't add up, I want them out there stopping people, and so that's the work that we signed up to do, and we've got a ton of officers out there that are doing great work. And so the plan is about making sure everybody has the information and understands where, when, and how to do that the right way, and we're doing it in collaboration with our partners in the community.
You know, you're going to be asked to do this, of course, Mayor. You've talked about it. We're getting toward the end of the year, the consent decree from the Department of Justice. Have you signed that yet?
No, that has not been signed. We continue to negotiate with the Department of Justice. We continue to negotiate that. We're working towards that resolution, and that's where we are right now.
Do you expect to still to shore it up at the end of the year?
We know that there are questions about timing, particularly with the last election. We're continuing to move forward regardless of who is in what seats. We want to have a consent decree, and so we continue to negotiate with the Department of Justice.
Let's put up one of the plan on the screen. Connie, this would be the sustained focus improvement. I thought it was interesting that you named specific streets, Chief.
Right, and so what we understand is that there's historically areas that have been plagued by particularly violent crime, and those are areas where there's opportunities for the most improvement. And so we want to work with the rest of government and community partners to not just deal with the violent crime, but what are those environmental factors? What are those social factors that go into the drivers of violent crime? And we don't solve a lot of those problems, the police don't, but we're the first contact between the community member and a resource. And so our ability to act as the liaison between that community member and that resource is going to be how we solve problems. And so we want to make sure that we focus on the areas that need attention and there's opportunity for improvement.
This plan starts right away?
Yeah, so parts of this plan's been in place, and a lot of this about creating a plan is how we communicate and coordinate all of those resources. As opposed to everyone doing their own thing within LMPD and within Metro government, let's all be on the same sheet of music so that we can actually have a goal and reach it accordingly.
Okay. I think it was surprising to both the chief and I that there was a lot of silos within Metro government. And so now we're breaking down those silos, ensuring that our colleagues throughout all of Louisville Metro government are working together with LMPD, interagencies, because there's a lot that Public Works can do to help improve the safety of a neighborhood, or codes and regulations, or the ABC, what they can do, and now we're working closely together.
How do you envision that part of the plan, the sustained focus improvement? Because in the description it says repairing urban blight, and LMPD has identified these areas for improvement. So
so there are many different ways. For example, there might be blocks where we're having significant violent crime and all the street lights are out, or they're having problems in the alley because there is no lighting in the alley, or there's illegal dumping that's taking place, or there are too many vacant and abandoned properties where people who are living in those properties are living there that aren't supposed to be living in there. We have other Metro agencies that can address those things. It's not the police's responsibility to fix broken streetlights, to repair sidewalks, to ensure that vacant structures are boarded up. We have other agencies to work with that. We need the police and our other agencies working together. Now that's starting to happen more than it ever has before. You also take other programs that are working to prevent crime from happening, like group violence intervention. That's a partnership not just with city agencies, but also with state agencies and federal agencies. We have the Kentucky Attorney General Russell Coleman, the U.S. Attorney, is involved in that. The chief and I are now personally going to those monthly meetings to ensure all federal, state, and local partners are working together to prevent violent crime in Louisville.
Let's talk about some of the surplus money. You wanted to go to emergency services. I know for police, cameras were one of the things talked about that were needed. Kind of take us through that.
Yeah.
And certainly the public right now is on board with that after what we've seen all of our emergency service workers
Yeah,
go
first,
through.
I'm incredibly proud. I'm incredibly proud of when I talked about moving our city in a new direction. Part of that was the way we manage our funds. Part of that was being very efficient with how we're using our funds, how we're using taxpayer money, and then how we're investing it. And as a result, we do have a $16 million surplus. Public safety is our first priority. We saw it last night with the work that the police do. We've seen it several times over the past couple of weeks with the work of the fire department and EMS and dispatchers. We need to invest in our first responders. And so the priorities that I have laid out and proposed to Metro Council are that we invest in the resources so we have more police cars on the street, so that we get new fire equipment, that we get new snow plows and dump trucks to keep our streets safe when it snows. Those are the basic services that everyone expects, and we need to do that at a high level in Louisville.
Chief, is it your belief that your staff size is an outdated model for since merger, that you need more than 1,300 officers? I know you have a study that's going to look at this.
Yeah, and so we'll get those numbers back in the study. Part of what we need to do is be efficient with our manpower, and that's part of making use of technology. But I would argue that we probably do need more than 1,300 officers. But we're going to follow what the data says, and I would love to have 1,500 officers. People talk about they want to see an officer walk in their neighborhood all the time. Well, post 911, you can call 911 and get an officer there. The walking the neighborhood model went out the window, right? Either you have an officer walking down your street or you're able to pick up the phone and call. I would love to have enough officers and manage their time and resources so that you can see that officer walking through your neighborhood again.
All right. We want to thank you both for coming in. Good.
Great to be with you all.
Conversation.
Thank you.
New plan rolled out today. A lot of our viewers contact us about this. I'm sure they'll be glad to hear the details. Thank you both.